Hey everybody. Today's video is kind of a response to a comment that was on a post that I made on Facebook. Here's the post where I posted up a song called Down the Rabbit Hole onto my SoundCloud. And this was an ambient track that I was messing around with based off of another iPad musician who had done something with Animoog, and I thought, well, you know what? Let me take a crack at that and see what I can come up with. And this is the result. As you can see, I got a couple of responses here. But Derek Jones in particular had asked me what apps I was using to drive. I was driving into AudioShare, and he was kind of letting me know what he liked. Well, so I just kind of gave a generic response, but it did give me an idea for a video for today. So that's where we are right now. So what I did is I saved this setup in AudioBus. Actually, I was thinking ahead because when I was making the track, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning and I was in bed. And I didn't have any of my camera equipment with me because normally something like this I probably would have documented via video like I'm doing right now. So I'm going to do my best to recreate what it is that I did for this track. Now, first off, this is my chain. I started with Animoog, and then I'm using both Frobulator and Nebulizer in the effects section. Now, if you don't know what these are, Nebulizer was created by Matthew Caldwell, and as it says here, a badly behaved delay effect for iOS. That's what I like. I love delays. I love putting a delay on everything and making a big sound out of it, whether it's a guitar solo with just enough ambience to kind of thicken it up, or if I'm doing, for instance, in this case, a synth track with ambient properties. I like to put a lot of delay on there, and along with reverb to make it really big. And then Frobulator by Matthew Caldwell is an experimental stereo modulated filter and spectral delay effect for iOS. So it looks like I'm using a low pass filter and 2 delays on top of, if that isn't enough, I'm using the delay in Animoog. So what I've got here is I set this patch up kind of based off of, I hope I get his name right, Alan Tippin from the iPad Musicians Group. He was using Animoog to create a ambient track, and basically he just stayed in Animoog. From what I read and from what I heard, he was just using an ambient patch that he had created, and then did the 4-track inside Animoog to create his track. And I thought about doing the same thing, but then I was like, you know what? I have all these external effects that I want to use. And there's some great companies out there that have apps that would be perfect for this. I know that Jakob Hack uses some from, I'm drawing a blank on the name now, but anyway, he's got some good ones that he uses, and he uses them in AudioShare quite a bit too, which is, if you go back and look at my chain here, I have AudioShare capturing all the audio. So my first step is to prepare to grab the audio. When I did this, I was doing this straight on the iPad. I did not have this hooked up, but for the sake of to keep my hands off the screen so you can see what's going on, I'm using my SynthStation 49. Okay. This setup is basically, real quick, I just kind of took some of the timbres. I left an octave saw. I left the fat saws on either side, but then I grabbed like a couple of other different timbres to kind of just change the sound up a little bit. And then, I just programmed the path. And if you see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the little yellow and orange dots are moving along that pretty slowly. And then I made sure I set up my amp envelope to have a long attack time. And then I went full sustained decay and release on this to make sure that this thing rang out for a while. And then I would start up. Let's take those off. So what I did then is, now that I've got this hooked up, I'm able to play on here. And as you can hear, okay, so that was my original piece that I did, and I actually had posted this as a solo track on SoundCloud, but then probably after about an hour, I was like, my painting's not finished. So I decided to pull the track down and finish it. And so then what I did is I had recorded everything that I just played into AudioShare, which I didn't do for this, and then I took that and I dumped it into Aria as a single track. Okay, and this here is the actual track that I did. So as you can see, I've got 3 tracks going now, and I have the effects on all of them. So what I have done is, the first track is the original performance, and I had added reverb and delay on top of what I already had. So I've got like 4 different sets of reverb going, or delay going. So I got a really long tail on that. So then what I did, I just did IVCS3 into Aria through Audio Bus, and I recorded this track. And again, it's got reverb on it, and I believe delay too, so. Now, when I did this, I had IVCS3 open up, and it was a patch that I had just kind of haphazardly created. Now, that's the funny thing about this track. Every track on here was haphazardly created. I didn't plan it ahead of time. I just kind of let inspiration lead me down the path. And that's what I got. So when I added this in, I was like, okay, this works. I don't even know if it's in tune with what I'm doing. I tried to get it close, but I didn't use the keyboard or anything. I just basically played with the frequency knobs in IVCS3. And that's what I came up with. Now, here's where the real fun comes in. My third one is, again, Audio Bus, straight into Aria, no other effects. And I had used Igor Vasiliev's Fieldscaper app. About a couple days ago, I had actually hit the record button and recorded myself getting out of bed. You can hear me like sighing and yawning and grunting and all this other stuff where I'm getting out of bed and I'm stretching, and you can hear it, you know, it's real light. So I cranked up the reverb, cranked up the delay, etc., slowed it down, everything that you would do in Fieldscaper. This was the result. And again, reverb, delay. That was the 3 tracks that I made. that was enough because it was starting to get kind of washy and that, which I guess is fine for an ambient track, but I still wanted to have the ability to tell each individual part. So I decided to go ahead and automate my pans and some of my volume changes. I didn't do a whole lot in the volume changes. I just got them where I wanted them and then I ran with them. But I did do a lot of panning so that you can get that whole thing. And now you're probably not going to hear this on the video because I'm just running a mono cable out of the SynthStation right into my camera. So and that is how I built this track. And then when it was done, I brought it over into Final Touch for mastering, in where I just added, a gentle limiter, a little bit of EQing, and then stereo imaging, and that was it. I didn't process the dynamics or anything. I just wanted to make it so that the volume levels were pretty, they don't get too out of hand. And I wanted to make sure that it was a stereo imaging was pretty wide because, I want you to hear the panning and everything. So that is how I built my track. As far as the synths that I used, I did use IVCS3, which is great. That's the actual raw track that I used for the. This is the sound that I used for that track. As you can hear, it's still where I left it. Anyway, this thing is perfect for ambient tracks in general noise making in that way. I'm sure you can use that as a regular synth if you wanted to program it as such, but I find it's a lot more fun to use this thing as it sits because it's so random. It's like, and you can just barely control it. As you can hear, I've got the delay going and everything like that. So this thing is awesome for ambient stuff. And I used Animoog, which is probably my default standalone synthesizer I love using. I use it live. I use it in the studio. It's probably one of my biggest sources of inspiration. And then, of course, I used Fieldscaper. And this is what I used to do the other track. Let's see here. This is the original sound sample that I used unprocessed. And this is what it sounds like when it's processed. So there you have it. This is what I used to create Down the Rabbit Hole. If you have any other questions about my process, or if you've got any commentary, if there's anything you want to know, please either hit me up on Facebook or you can hit me up here in the comments section of my video. And as always, I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel, and I look for you in future videos. If you would like to see more of this content, let me know, and I will make it happen. Thanks so much.